Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Geeks Reads. Today I want to talk about the book The Devil You Know by Mike Carrey, an image of which you will see here. Minor spoilers. I try to keep away from those. I usually only discuss the first act. So, this book is a modern contemporary fantasy. It takes place in modern times. It takes place in England. The main character, Felix Castor, is an exorcist. Now, in this setting, ghosts and zombies and things like that have become common knowledge. Like at some point in the past, like they just started happening, and they've just become part of everyday life. Felix Castor is an exorcist. He has the gift to be able to sense ghosts and to bring them out and exorcise them when they're haunting someplace. As the book opens, he has not done that in a while. Something happened in his past that affected him. He's decided to give up being an exorcist, not exercising. Decided to give up being an exorcist. However, a job comes along that he feels he needs to take for financial reasons. There's basically been a haunting at like a public, that's not a library, it's like a document, like a official damn, the word is just like sliding off my tongue. Repository? I don't know, what do you want to call it? It's a place where we store lots of documents. Part library, part museum, whatever you want to call it. A lot of official documents are stored there. Historical documents, things like that. And as he goes in to investigate, weird things are going on that he can't explain. This is not just a normal haunting. Something is different about this one. And there are various other sidetracks. He gets somehow involved, like someone else calls him in for a reason to like scan his business for any possible hauntings that might be happening. And the guy involved is kind of underhanded. He's involved. He's kind of involved in something. The book, and that's not even spoilers for the first act, really. There's a couple of minor spoilers in there, but that's pretty much how things are going. He's trying to investigate. Things are going on. He's meeting the staff. This essentially is a murder mystery, which you might expect because there's ghosts involved. Felix's interaction with the various staff at this place. All right, what is that? This is gonna bug me. I should have looked it up beforehand because this is a waste of time. Where is it? It's the Bonington something or other. All right. I think it's a repository. It's a book that's a repository. The Bonington, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the Bonington. Sorry to waste your time there. But, he's questioning the staff about there's the guys in charge, a guy named Peel, his second in command, Alice. There's Cheryl Torrell, I think is the guy's name, and Rich. Those are basically the five major, and the security guard, Frank. So those are like the main people that work in the library. And there's a couple of periphery figures that you meet and deal with. And then there's the ghost, who they call Sylvie for most of it, because they don't know her name. She's not speaking to them. And when she occasionally did speak in the past, she spoke in Russian. which only the museums, the repository staff, only Rich understands and speaks. So, yeah. Lost my train of thought trying to figure out what to call that, the Bonington Repository. Anyway, that's not what it's called. I'm going to call it the Bonington Repository. The book itself, you know, the murder mystery is interesting. It's not initially apparent that there's a murder going on, but with a ghost in a modern setting, you kind of figure that, you know, there's going to be one. Whether it's related to anything going on currently, you know, when the story first opens, the assumption is that the ghost is tied to a series of Russian documents that they've received. You know, ghosts are tied to certain locations or items. So, you know, her face is obscured. You can't see her face. She's wearing something white. And like I said, Castor's having a hard time getting a fix on her because of how she wanders around this book repository. You know, he has some friendly relations with at least Cheryl and Rich. Toril is kind of a standoffish nerd. Alice is openly hostile. Peel, he tells Felix early on that he has like some minor autism, so he has has a problem with social cues and social interaction. The security guard Frank seems to be a decent enough fellow. But I didn't find this book hard to read. I read through it fairly quickly. It wasn't a slog or anything. It was decently written. The hard thing for me was that I don't like the main character, Felix Castor. The story I found it similar in structure to the Dresden Files, the Harry Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. And looking online, I've seen a lot of other people make the same comparison. The difference, though, is that like Harry Dresden in those books is just kind of he's a likable rogue. He's kind of a smart ass, you know, but he's like a Han Solo type character. You know, he's that rough around the edges kind of guy that's got a heart of gold. Felix is more than a bit rough around the edges. He's kind of a jerk. He does kind of have a soft spot for people. He does, you know, he's not, but I mean, we see his internal monologue, and his internal monologue isn't friendly, it's obnoxious. You know, he is kind of a jerk. And he doesn't necessarily present that same face to the people around him, although sometimes he does. But because I see his internal dialogue, it's like, why would anyone like this guy? He doesn't, and I think that's my problem with the book itself. Not that it's badly written, but that I find the main character of Felix Castor to be unlikable. I think it's a bit wordy in places as well. There's a part towards the latter end of the book where they go into some plot exposition, and they literally take almost 2 chapters to explain something that could have been done in like 2 pages. Just way I mean, that was the worst of it. There were other parts of the book as well that I thought he was kind of like, but this book is 400 pages long, and you really could cut out at least 2 chapters, but probably a couple of more. And the chapters are kind of long too. So I mean, you could probably cut this book down to 350 pages and not lose anything. You could really condense some of this stuff. So it's overly long in places, it's overly wordy in places, and I didn't like the main character. It did have some twists that I liked, though. There were a couple little twists at the end that I really enjoyed. And that's kind of why I'm on the fence about continuing on with this series. I wind up liking some of the side characters, I mean. I find them interesting, just don't know why they're involved in the life of the main character. I cannot understand why anyone would hang out with this guy or be friends with him. Not because he's like, you know, a bad person. He's just kind of a jerk. But I think it was well written enough that I'm tempted to buy the second book. So I would give this like a good solid B from my own perspective. I think if you've never read the Dresden Files, this might be a good pickup, because like I'm comparing it unfavorably to that series. By no means is Jim Butcher a great author. I mean, those books are fun, but they're not like high literature. I don't necessarily recommend them to people, aside from the fact that they do have some interesting stuff in them. Actually, I do recommend Jim Butcher's books. Scratch that. I do, because at least the first three. Because at least with those books, he's done something a bit different. This book is different too, just in a not the same way. I got to talking about other books and talking about this one. What else I wanted to say? I think that pretty much covers it. You know, it's a decent book. What more can I say than that? I'm not sure I could recommend it. Giving it the B that I did, I really can only recommend it if, like I said, if you haven't read the Dresden Files, because I do think those are better written, even though the first books are still in the series are a little clunky. This is not the author's first book. He's written another. I might pick up one of his other books, not of this series, to see if out of curiosity. But The Devil You Know by Mike Carrey, decent enough. Just, I recommend it, just not very highly. Let's leave it at that. As always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.